Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Star Citizen video. Now, in this video, this is really just a relaxing. I'm going to sit back, I'm going to share some thoughts, and I'm going to record this, so I'm not live streaming this. And that way I can edit out anything that I say that is stupid. So basically, after I do the editing, whatever's left in the video is my true thoughts. Okay, so bear with me. Bear with me. Okay, so a couple of things. PTU. There is a PTU going on right now for 371. Not sure why, because there is a live 371. Any PTUs that I would... maybe they're doing some quality of life testing or something like that, but I am not participating in that PTU. I've decided that I am going to stick with the 371 live until 38 goes to Evocati, and then I'll help them out and test with that as well. And then we'll get in the 38 hopefully at CitizenCon, which is coming up next month. All right, now this is the 30th. Tomorrow is the 31st, which is Halloween. I heard someone else call it Beggar's Day, which I thought was which is pretty cool. Okay, so this video, just so you know, is nothing too serious. It's just sitting around, chit-chatting, talking about Star Citizen, sharing my thoughts. But there is one topic that has come to light to me that is kind of serious, and one of the reasons what sparked me to kind of chill out and kind of just talk about this is the flight model. The flight model has come full circle, in my opinion. It's gone from being real super easy to being hard to being easy again to being hard. It's there's what is it? John Pritchett, I think, was the original flight model creator, and everything was faked. It was simulated, but by the numbers and not by any kind of physical weights or measures. It was just like they assigned numbers to things, and they thought it would be as close to realistic as possible. And then Dave Coulson came in, and he's been doing work where he takes the actual weight of the vehicles and the actual thrust of the thrusters and creates this flight model that is only is basically physicalized. And okay, so the point that I'm trying to make is it's divided. There is a small minority of people out there that don't like the new flight model. There's a very small fraction of a percentage that doesn't like this new flight model, and these individuals are they're vocal, right? They're vocal about it. They're yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs. So this small minority is actually being heard. I don't know if they're being ignored. I don't know if they're being not ignored, but they're listened to with temperance. I think what's happening is they're trying to have their way. Well, we all try to have our way, but they are really trying to have their way, and some of them have even quit the game, and I'm talking Star Citizen. Some of them have even quit the game because they're not getting their way. It's like, I'm not getting my way. I'm taking my toys and going home because I'm not going to get what I want. Okay, that's fine. You know, let me put it into perspective. Let's say I go to somebody's... Let's say I play in a D&D game, right? I'm making a paladin. I'm gonna be the most heroic hero there ever was, right? Okay. And then my dungeon master says, do this, do that, and I do this and I do that. and then I later say, I didn't like the way you did that, man. You didn't do it the way the book says to do it. I feel like I'm one of those guys, right? At that point, that player would be like this minority that doesn't like the way Star Citizen, the dungeon master, is doing things. And they're trying to get their way. Now, I'm going to step back and say, okay, now let's talk about Star Citizen. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to use an objective mind. I'm going to try to be subjective, objective. I'm going to try to look at it a third person and look in from the outside. I'm going to try to do that. And I would like to say this, and I'm gonna go on record to say I think I'm an extremely good pilot in Star Citizen. I'm worth under 2. I think I'm pretty good, but in Star Citizen, I think I'm an extremely good pilot. I think I can land pretty much anywhere. I think I can adapt to any flight model that they put out. I could fly in 0.9. I could fly in 1.0. I can fly in 1.3. 1.6. I could fly in 2.0. I could fly 3.71. Okay. Once I determine what the changes are, why my ship reacts the way it does, I adapt. And I make and I learn how to play. That's the problem right now with Star Citizen. It's an alpha. It's changing. It's like they like it like this, but then this better thing comes out, and then they say, well, that doesn't really solve all the problems, so we got to change it and we got to do it this way, and then we have to do it that way. That's game development. That's iterative game development. They try different things. That's iteration. That's what the word means. Okay. But this small community, you know what? I'm gonna label them. That way I don't have to keep saying, I'm not going to call them combat pilots, even though 90% of them probably are combat pilots. I'm going to call them whining bitches. That's what I'm going to call them. How about that? I'm just going to call them this small community, the whining bitches. No, I don't know. Okay, I don't mean it like that. Maybe I do. This group wants the flight model to stay like the original flight model. Now, I can only speculate based on what I've watched from podcasts, what I've read on the forums, what I've heard from my friends. I can only speculate to their psychology. They want it not to change because they've learned how to dogfight a certain way, and they got good at it because it was easy. So they got good at it, and now it's become a little harder. They're whining about it. They're complaining. They're saying, oh, it's not like it used to be. Okay. I get the whole I don't like change. I get that. I don't like change either. But understand this is an alpha. You didn't start with the finished product. You started with an experiment that didn't work. Or it was working, but it wasn't what Chris wanted. And because he didn't want it that way, it changed. He has people under him that he has imparted his vision. He goes, hey, Mr. Coulson here, this is what I want you to do. I want you to do this, this, and this, and make it happen. It's not that Chris is doing it, but he's giving him guidance and direction. Like, I want my ships to fly this way. And my understanding from when I was a backer which I am currently back around. Okay. But I backed back in 2013. I mean, I was one of the early backers. My understanding was that was only a placeholder. That flight model was not what it's supposed to be. He's always said, even from day one, one reason why I backed this game is because of this statement. He wants his ships and he wants the game to feel like World War II. He wants the dogfighting to be like World War II. He wants the big ship actions to be like World War II naval actions with battleships firing cannons at each other, right? He doesn't want the little autorobotic drones flying around, and he doesn't want, ship-to-ship missiles. That's more modern. He wants it to be World War II. And I was like, yes, World War II. Ooh, that's what I want. That's what I want. I don't like jet combat. I never have. Even in War Thunder. I play War Thunder quite a bit. I avoid the jet combat stuff and the helicopters. I don't want to do any of that. I don't even like the M1 or the Leopards or none of that late war stuff. I don't like that. I like the World War II stuff. And when Chris said he wanted his game to be like World War II, dogfighting, where you're chasing your enemy and he can't just turn around and fly past you. That's sci-fi, right? So he has to do maneuvers that you have to do maneuvers to stay on his tail, right? I got excited about that. That's what I'm excited about. Early iterations of Star Citizen's flight model, the one that these whiners want, was more like space combat. I get it. They got into this game because of space, and I kind of get it. I kind of get that. But that's not what the game's about. The game is not about space, and that's the rub, right? That's the part that these guys don't understand. They constantly, and I hear this constantly, well, why are we on planets? This is supposed to be a space game. Why do we have caves? This is supposed to be a space game. They don't get it. Planets are in space. Moons are in space. Asteroids are in space. It just so happens that if you have a planet, you probably have caves and cities and big open areas that you can land on and woods that you can run around in with your rifles. When I backed this game back in 2013, I knew that there was going to be ground combat. I knew it. That's why I backed it. I enjoy ground combat. I enjoy first-person shooters. I think it's cool. I like dogfighting. I like War Thunder. I like Arma. I like a bunch of games that are, foot and vehicle mounted stuff. I dig it. And then you throw in the fact that it's space. I don't mean space. I mean sci-fi. It's a sci-fi game. Think sci-fi. Don't keep saying space. Because it's not space. It's science fiction. It's futuristic. And even though it's futuristic, it's still like Traveler. It's like Firefly. Okay, Firefly is a spaceship. It's called it's Firefly class spaceship, right? It's called the Serenity. 9 out of 10 shows were where? planets. Star Trek. You got Star Trek, right? You got space combat. You got Klingons and Federation fighting. That's not very common. What's most common is planets. They go down to a planet. The red shirt gets killed. That's sci-fi. Sci-fi is not space. Don't think space and sci-fi is the same thing. It's the planets. Now, there is an exception. There's the new sci-fi series. What is it? The Expanse. The Expanse is space, right? It is a lot about space. But guess what? There's planets. That's the whole thing. Mars, Earth, Venus, the asteroid belt. So there are these planets in the Expanse. And guess what? The new Expanse, the new series, is all about a planet. So it's all about planets are sci-fi. They are like an alien planet is sci-fi. Places you've never gone before, sci-fi. Weird ships, sci-fi. Alien races, sci-fi. Not just space combat. Now, it was advertised that this was going to have an arena-style combat in Star Citizen, which it already does. It's called Arena Commander. But it's not only arena-style combat. That's where people don't get it. They just don't get it. And so my point is, I'm a good pilot. I understand that the old model was easy. People could side strafe faster than they could go forward and backwards. They could... Right. Making it easy. They could turn on a dime, thrust back, turn on, turn, flip, flop, hit people like... Easy. When you take those thrusters that you could do all this with and you bring them down into realistic terms, the ships now thrust forward 10 times at least faster than they can go left and right, up and down, because you got this honking machine back there, this engine, this main thruster is what it's called. So you should be able to fly just like a plane in World War II. Okay, except there's usually have propellers in the front. But, hey, they had some jets. But you go forward. That is where your strength is. Your strength is forward momentum. Now, the part where I think some of them are upset about is changing your vector. So you're traveling this way. If I apply a little bit of thrust up here, I'm still going to be traveling in the same exact way. Just because I turn where I'm pointing doesn't change the direction of my movement unless I apply thrust from my rear thruster. So when I go up and then the rear thruster fires, I still have forward momentum, the direction I was traveling. But now my engine is trying to counteract that by shooting me off in this direction. So what winds up happening is my ship is flying this way. I do this, and you see drift. You see it continues to go that way, but it starts to go up. And part of the problem that these pilots are having now is that they're running into things. Because you'll have an asteroid, and they'll be flying at it, and then they think that they can just whoop and be gone, like in the old days. They can't do that. They go, and they couldn't get over it. Boom. That's where skill comes in. That's where you have to learn your capabilities of your vehicle, and you have to adapt. I can do it. I don't understand why you can't do it. And okay, so there are people that have quit the game because it's gotten too hard for them. Okay, now let's back up. Let's back up to the whole original concept that I was trying to get at. They're a small community, right? You have this larger community of players like myself that dig the new flight model. I think the new flight model is a little bit more complicated. It's also a little bit more realistic. It makes me feel like if I'm in a fighter, I can turn faster than if I'm in a fuel tanker, you know? And I feel like I have to think ahead. If there's an asteroid, I got to turn early to get away from that thing, or side strafe to the best of my ability, or I need to crank up the ability of my thrusters. Maybe I burn them out. There's a lot of things going through my mind while I am flying, which there should be. By lowering your ability to just flip and turn and rotate and just go sideways, by preventing ships from doing that, you as an attacker, or the enemy as an attacker on me, should be able to maneuver and get behind me, right? Limiting my ability to side strafe away, because they could just side strafe with me. Or if I climb and I climb and drift a little bit, they can climb and drift behind me. So it made it a lot more like World War II. Is it exactly like World War II? No, because there's no up and down in space, right? And there's no restrictions on me flying backwards, right? Where in World War II, that might be a problem. Unless you're doing an Immelman or something. But, so there are still aspects of space flight in the flight model, but they've come closer to World War II, and I appreciate that. I think if I'm a good pilot, which I think I'm a great pilot, I think I'm a very, very good pilot, I can get on people's tails and I can stay there. I can put, yeah, okay. So let's talk about auto gimbals. I hear these, wait. Yeah, the small community complaining about auto gimbals. It's making the game easy. It's given the newbies the ability to kill me. I used to kill them all the time, and now they can kill me. I don't know if they know how they sound. They wrap their bullshit in what sounds like logical, analytical thinking, when really all it is polishing a turd. And that turd still is a turd. It's just very nice and shiny. Okay, now let's talk about auto gimbals. First of all, gimbaled weapons were around in World War II. Gimbaled weapons were around in 1.0 in this game. Okay. I remember when you had fixed weapons and you had gimbaled weapons. And the gimbaled weapons were the same size as the fixed weapons. And I complained because their thought process was, we're going to shrink the weapons one size if you use a gimbal. Because you got fixed weapons like size 3, and then your gimbaled weapons would be size 2. And I raged. I was like, what the hell? I don't get my size 3 gimbals. Okay, well, that was me just being stupid, because that was a really good idea. That was a really good balancing idea. But that's not how they wrapped it up. That's not how they presented it. They presented it as the only people that use gimbals are mouse users, and the only people that use fixed weapons are joystick users, and the joystick users were always getting beat by mouse users. Because all the mouse users had to do is point their guns at you and pull the trigger. Where you, with a joystick, you had to actually fly your ship. Well, I'm a mouse user. I'm extremely good. Do I use gimbals? Most of the time. Sometimes I don't. People say that auto gimbals is supposed to be a learning tool to eventually learn how to fix weapons. No. Auto gimbals were originally introduced, and this is my understanding, to combat the fact that there's lag. There's a little bit of disconnect or desync between ships. And you will see a ship with a lead pip. You'll fire at the lead pip and you won't hit them. So they implemented these auto gimbals where the computer will determine if it should hit you or not. And so it basically was a tool to combat the lag or the disconnect. So I kind of think of that as a stopgap until they can beat the lag and the desync. Some people think that auto gimbals are for the noobs. If you give people auto gimbals that makes them able to shoot down ships, you're strengthening the noob, right? And then the guys that are flying with their fixed guns are at a disadvantage now. No, they're not. They think they are because they're scared. Okay, so let me try to break this down. This is just my opinion. I'm leaning in. I don't mean to be doing that. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be chill. Fixed guns are bigger and more damaging, more range, better recharge times than gimbaled weapons because of their size. Whether I have auto gimbals on or not auto gimbals, if I fly with a mouse, I can put my mouse on your pip and pull the trigger. So me flying with a mouse and me having a brain, I'm pretty much auto gimbaling myself, and I'm killing you. I was killing you before I had auto gimbals because I'm a mouse user and I use gimbaled weapons. If I flew with a mouse and had fixed weapons, I would struggle to hit you. Fixed weapons, they're a little tough. They do a lot of damage. They really do. But I'm hitting less often, but more powerful. But I prefer to hit you more often to keep those shields from recharging so I can keep putting damage into you. And then if I have a wingman, one of my buddies from the 1st Naval Aerospace Squadron, he'll be putting damage into you as well. Constantly peppering. Okay. So, if I jump into a joystick and I don't have gimbals, I'm struggling because now I'm hindering myself twice. I don't have a mouse and I don't have auto gimbals. So by giving auto gimbals to the players that use a joystick, they can actually get close to shooting you, and then the auto gimbals will take over and actually be able to shoot you. So in my opinion, it brings the joystick players up to where I'm at as a mouse user. People are looking at it backwards. As a mouse user, I already can gimbal you and shoot you when I want to. But those joystick players didn't have that option, but now they do. And now they can auto gimbal. This is going to be, and I'm sure this is going to be a topic for a long time. Does that lower the ceiling of Get Good? Before, you had, in development of your character or your skill in Star Citizen, you started off not really knowing how to fly. You don't know how to fly. Nobody teaches you how to fly. They don't have a tutorial. So you get in there, you crash a few times, right? You're a noob. You don't know what you're doing. But once you figure out how to fly, your level goes up a little bit. Now you can fly a little bit better than somebody else, these noobs. And then you start figuring out how to shoot and how to get your guns placed, and you can fly better now. And then you get to a point where you plateau, where you can't get any better. And I disagree with that. That's a common misconception. People say, well, when you get to a certain point, you plateau. No, what it is the learning curve is less steep. So you learn, and then you pretty much learn everything, and you get to this level that people think is flat, and it's not. It's just slightly going up. So your initial learning is, that's why they call it a steep learning curve. You actually have a steep learning curve, and then once you get to know everything, you still learn things, and you still develop skill and reaction and understand things better than you did when you started. It keeps going up. Now, if you feel like you've plateaued, like you've gotten to a point where you can't learn anything else, that's on you, because you need to join an organization like the 1st Naval Aerospace Squadron or some other organization that have good pilots, like myself, that can take you under their wing and say, hey, have you tried this? Have you done that? And if you don't, that's on you. If you have tried those, then maybe you've tried something that I haven't tried, and we can combine our knowledge, right? And we can get even better. It takes cooperation, usually, to get better. And it's not the equipment. Chuck Yeager said it. It's not the machine, it's the man. So don't think that because you have auto gimbals, or because you have fixed weapons, or because you have low thrusters, that you're not going to be able to get any better. That has nothing to do with it. It's technique. It's implementing the right flight style. It's being able to get into the right position, shooting at the right components. That's knowledge. And knowledge just comes with experience. That has nothing to do with the gimbals. The gimbals do allow for a new player or a joystick player to be competitive. That's all it is. You as a veteran pilot, you should know how to adjust your shields. You should know how to adjust your power outputs to different components. You should know how to target and where to target, and how to position your ship in a way where your shields are at their best and their shields are at their worst. Don't blame it on the mechanics. Don't blame it on the ships. That's players. And if you feel like you can't get any better, evaluate how you're trying to get better. Are you trying to get better by getting better equipment? That's not good enough. Are you trying to get better by using auto gimbals or not using auto gimbals, fixed weapons or not? No, that's not how you get better. So, because fixed weapons, they're pretty deadly if you put them in the right pilot's hands. Gimbaled weapons are pretty deadly if you give them to pretty much everybody. But that allows for new players to be able to hit something because of sync, desync, and lag. You got to give CIG some credit for inventing auto gimbals. I think it was a smart move. I like auto gimbals for the fact that now when I get a noob in the squadron, I put him on auto gimbals and we give him a rapid fire weapon and just say, follow me and pull the trigger. You know? So, and then because they're still in that steep learning curve, when they get to their plateau, now they can start developing their own techniques, their own strategies, and developing experience just through experience. All right, well, those are the two topics I really wanted to go over, and I think I did. I think I touched them, and I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of editing, maybe a little bit, and then I will see you in the next video. See you around.